Mormons.
And Andrea, who's not a Mormon.
We have a special guest, Andrea!
But if I was a Mormon, I'd be a bad one.
Yeah, she's definitely bad. And I don't know if you know this, Andrea, but we've given you a new name. You're now, like people are like influencers on the internet and whatever. You're a bad influencer.
Sure. Makes sense.
So we're all together. We're in the city of sin.
The sinnest of cities.
Again.
We're in the sinnest of cities. I haven't gotten a shitty tattoo from a back alley tattoo parlor
since the last time we were here together.
It wasn't the last time, but it was an Anderson trip nonetheless.
Listen, you guys, if you're listening to this podcast right now, you're here because you want to hear the shit show that is about to unfold.
I would say the shit show that is our lives.
Yes, exactly.
We've been coming to Las Vegas for 20-something years as I'm in the group together, and I don't think I'm older.
Wiser?
Wiser, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly can handle my liquor better.
I used to think that.
But I'm still the same degenerate as I've always been.
Agreed. Well, cheers, ladies. It is 2:00 in the morning.
Cheers.
It's Las Vegas.
Good decisions always made.
We're drinking. What are we drinking?
It's what all fine people drink at this hour. It's Crown Apple and Pepsi.
It's delicious.
Cinnamony. Oh, that's what I say about cocaine. No, just
just said it. It's on the podcast forever. We can't edit it.
Well, cocaine doesn't taste like cinnamon, but Coca-Cola does.
True. Fact.
That Jamaican cocaine.
Listen, I know the three of us, and I know that we could go and talk about what cool shit's going on. We could repent about some stuff, but really what's going to take up the bulk of this podcast is us talking about politics, so we might as well just get the fuck into it.
That's true.
Yeah, are we all on the same page?
Sure thing.
I'm here.
Let's talk I think there's so many different avenues we could take into the conversation, but I think the most direct avenue is let's talk about the Trump worshipers and how they affect our lives and go from there.
Those motherfuckers.
We've told our listeners already that our mother is a QAnon follower and a Trump worshiper and kind of just you can't talk to the woman. She's got her mind made up. I know, Andrea, you have a little of that on your side.
If your mom is a QAnon worshiper and full-fledged Coca-Cola worshiper of Donald Trump, my family is the Diet Sprite worshiper of the QAnon.
Fair. That's fair. That's a good statement.
Do they believe that there is a group of Democrats that are peddling pornography of pedophilia
from a pizza parlor?
From a pizza parlor?
No.
Okay. They don't even order food from a pizza parlor. They get it from Papa Murphy's and they cook it themselves. But
your father's worst crime is he gets all of his information from Fox News.
Well, Hannity is a really smart guy if you talk to him.
Oh,
but
Lord have mercy.
he does think that those Dominion machines, those
oh my God, what is a Dominion machine? I've never even heard of that.
What are the voting machines?
It's the voting machines. Right. It's Dominions is the company.
Okay.
Those, Andrea, he said to me, those machines are not right. They are right.
They're 100% right.
They only recounted the vote like 4 times in Georgia. They're not right.
99.9% there is a margin of error. And everyone's like, well, that margin of error is like not...
He's also like, all lives matter, just not black. He doesn't understand. It's all right.
I know.
He comes from a good place, but doesn't understand that he's wrong.
Well, and right, it is the sensitive white it's like middle class 65-year-old white male fragility. It's like I'm very, I think I'm losing control.
I've never been exposed to, well, I shouldn't say never been exposed to it, but never had a lot of life experience around people of color.
It's frightening to think that you aren't going to be at the top anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Even if you don't fully understand that you gain so much more than anybody else.
Right.
After attending one of your Christmas parties and the people who attend those Christmas parties,
Yeah,
it makes sense to me why they're like, wait, I'm not going to be, super rich and important anymore.
I just want to back up just a little.
By
your Christmas party, she means your parents'
which
Christmas
are the
parties.
most fun, by the way.
Which are great.
And Penny and Blair, who are my parents, the best.
Yeah,
they are the
bless
fucking
them.
best.
They are
Yeah.
delightful
Some of their friends are garbage, and they know that they're garbage.
We have differing political opinions. Obviously, Blair and the three of us could have an argument.
But we do agree that
a discussion.
That we do agree that even if you are a Trump voter, we don't have to align you with the people who
storm the Capitol
and treason on this company, on this country, and try to shoot, kill the vice president,
right?
Who I don't
Speaker of the House,
Vice President, and even the vice president, who I don't particularly care for. Certainly don't want that man to die.
Agreed.
Ever.
I would like to just draw a line in the fucking sand right now and say there's a difference between Trump worshippers and Republicans.
Absolutely.
That line's getting really fucking blurry, though.
It is. We need to fucking figure that shit out.
But I do believe
that's on them.
I do believe when you talk about half of the country, and it's half of the country, Biden won by a very narrow margin. He won it, nonetheless. But it is a narrow margin. But it is saying that 70 million people in this country did vote for Donald Trump. And you're going to say, well, all of those people are the same people that stormed the Capitol.
That's not true.
Absolutely not. Not a chance. Most of those people are good. I think that most Republicans, if you take out abortion and you take out gay rights, and if you took out a lot of it, guns, what it really comes down to, I don't want government intruding on my life.
And a libertarian thing, right?
It is a libertarian thing, and I think that a lot of people who align them, I think that there are, certainly my dad's generation, who is 67, 68, whatever, these guys come from a Ronald Reagan era, which was, for them, being white male citizen was a glorious time. Everything worked out right for them. It definitely did not work out right for if you were women, men of color, women of color.
Any sort of minority.
Or poor.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of them sort of ride on that kind of life. But Trump comes in and said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand why you would listen to him and think, this guy he's speaking for me. This guy is 3 times filed for bankruptcy, which there's nothing wrong with filing for bankruptcy.
Only 3?
3 or 4 times.
6 times.
Oh,
I think it was a lot more than that.
Yeah. And totally fucking broke, by the way, when he came into office.
Absolutely.
No money. Why won't he show us his tax return? Because he got no money.
Right.
The motherfucker's broke.
So actually, I think
a joke.
The person that is actually most responsible for half of this nonsense is the producers of The Apprentice. They made a broke-ass, horrible business person, because that's what producers do. They manipulate it into saying that he knows what he's doing and he's this great business person, blah, blah, blah. And that's what they put out to America, and America fucking bought it. And it's bullshit.
But even before that, I would say to you, Charlotte, I remember Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Right.
Do you remember him? The British guy?
Stacey Keach?
So impressed right
I don't
now.
remember what his name was, but I remember
right, though.
I remember he was when Donald Trump was married to Ivana, and she divorced him, and she's like, I'm not taking half, I'm taking it all. And Lifestyles were they would wear fur. I mean, I remember Ivanka, she's about the same age as me, would be wearing fur coats. It's portraying this lifestyle being incredibly wealthy, but actually having
nothing.
Yeah. And he had nothing. And that's why he went.
No, he lived on credit.
Yeah.
Or he lives on credit.
Listen, let's get back to the insurrection. Let's get back to these fucking assholes in tactical gear with fucking zip tie handcuffs storming the Capitol.
Which, by the way, he just got arrested.
Having explosives on them.
Who was a bartender from Florida, by the way.
What are you guys talking about?
The guy that they have on the guy that they took a picture of
He's
that had
jumping
the zip ties.
over some
He was a fired bartender from Florida. Like,
and he tried saying, I found these zip ties on the ground. I picked them up to give them to the Capitol Police. I just thought I was doing the right thing. It's total fucking bullshit.
At the end of the day, I think there was, from what I've heard, there was 500 police officers. There's 3,000 police officers from the Capitol Police, which is what I didn't understand. That I didn't understand that those police officers are different from, let's say, Washington, D.C. Metro Police.
I didn't realize that they were different either.
They are different because there's a police officer for that. The police officer, it's not Secret Service. It's the police force that runs the Capitol. And then there's a sergeant-at-arms in the House, and there's a sergeant-at-arms in the Senate, and they make all the decisions. And then there's a chief of police that works for all of them, and they're the ones that made the decision to not put any extra force for the whole insurrection.
Really?
And then you look at it, you say, well, on one side of the Capitol, which was, I think, the House, they're letting them in. On the other side of the Capitol, which is the Senate, they're breaking down doors and they're breaking down windows.
Correct. Yeah.
And I think we don't know what's gonna happen because ultimately the FBI won't come out and say anything about what happened. The president, who planned this all, by the way, won't come out and say anything about it. And and nobody from the police force and the Senate police will come out and say anything about it. So we don't know exactly what happened, but obviously this was police officers who were fighting against the insurrectionists, and there were police officers that were a part of it.
Yeah.
100%.
Right. Yeah.
They were letting them in.
We did mention, you guys, it's 2 a.m. and we're in Vegas. So we're having some snacks. Sorry about the crinkling.
But not cocaine, by the way.
God, not that kind of snacks.
I wish we had some cocaine.
These mics pick up everything, including the strippers that are going to be coming to the door. Anyways, sorry, I got a little off track there. Yeah, that shit is fucked up, and it's completely orchestrated.
100%.
And it's doing what it's meant to do, which is divide us even further.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is majority of the time, I'm for protesting. I'm for, even if we're not on the same side, if you want to protest the government about how things go, I'm kind of almost always for that. Totally. Because I want my voice
should be
when I'm protesting.
Right.
I think it's been a long time. I mean, this might even go back to like 9/11. When I remember 9/11 happening, which was the first year I moved to San Francisco from Bellingham, Washington, and that happening, it was so scary. It was so, I never felt more American in my grief of what was happening at that time. Mm-hmm. And I've never felt that again as like, I feel like I'm an American and I'm really pissed off about this. Because normally I like disruption. I like dissidents.
Dissent.
I like dissent.
Yeah.
I like people protesting.
You should be able to
dissent.
Yes.
Even if I don't
Express
agree
your voice.
Even if you love Trump and I don't agree with you, I think that you should be able to march, and I think that you should be able to protest.
That's kind of what our whole fucking country is founded on, if you
think about
it.
But watching that happen, and then watching some of the like the pictures and the video since then, like yesterday, them dragging that police officer out
and beating the shit
out of him. That is traumatic to me. It's very upsetting to me. I might be somebody who says, yes, I want to defund the police. I don't want to see that happening to the police. As I don't want to see Mike Pence getting hung. And They were looking to hang him.
Yeah, they actually put up essentially a hanging galley.
I just want to go on record and say that those people that were creating all this chaos at the Capitol, and they're blaming it on this mythical Antifa, which let's all fucking remember that just stands for anti-fascist, and we should all be against fascism.
The favorite thing I ever saw was, I've been Antifa since the first Indiana Jones movie.
Right.
Because I'm an anti-fucking Nazis.
Nobody wants the Nazis to win, but let me just say that those people are the same fucking people that were at the Black Lives Matter protests during the summer, breaking windows and starting shit and creating chaos, because that's what they do.
Yeah.
These are these militia guys with guns that live in the fucking Ozarks that, want nothing more than civil war and to create chaos. They're calling themselves Antifa because of whatever fucking reason, and I really think we should put that term aside, but these are the same fucking people.
Yeah. Well, and also a lot of those people were a 60 million, not enough. 60 million Jews, not enough.
Oh,
I mean, these are not Antifa people. These are Proud Boys,
right?
Which was founded by Gavin McInnes, who founded Vice magazine. By the way, I mean,
really,
yeah. Oh, did not know.
Oh no, I had no idea.
Gavin McInnes founded Proud Boys. He is trying to distance himself now from Proud Boys. Founded Proud Boys. Founded Vice magazine, a Canadian, by the way,
really,
through and through. Yes, so it's like, where does this all begin? It's like, but it doesn't have to be him. Anybody, this would have. I mean, listen, I remember Oklahoma City bombing.
Right.
A lot of these, comes from that.
Mm-hmm.
Comes from this idea of federal government. Fighting federal government, Ruby Ridge. I mean, you could take a lot of this to Waco. You could take this really far back. I mean, these are people who come out of those people. Ruby Ridge, Oklahoma City bombing.
McVeigh.
McVeigh. It's disrupting government.
What just happened in Tennessee?
It's disrupting government. They think and what I, certainly not a scholar, but what I observe when I read a lot of stuff is that they follow Trump because they think that he is disruptive to the government. But
it's not the status quo.
This guy, he's all about himself,
Right, he has no empathy for anybody.
I'm a big Howard Stern listener, and he's somebody Howard Stern does not love Trump at all, but these are somebody who they were friendly for a lot of years. And when he got elected over Hillary Clinton back in 2016, Howard Stern would say, this guy, he's all about fame. He's all about recognition. He has the worst self-esteem. He wants to be recognized. He wants to feel love. I mean, I don't know what his motivation is, but these lower middle class, white, working class, I don't want to say white trash. I don't want to denigrate people like that, but
it's not all white trash, but it's a lot of white trash.
It's a lot of that. They think that this guy is trying to rise them up, but this guy is he's broke. He came into office.
Can I interject real quick here? Our mother, who we've outed as a QAnon Trump worshiper, she got on Twitter simply to ask she was like, at Donald J. Trump, hey, I really could use $10,000 to get my business started. Like, she's not white trash.
No.
I honestly don't think that. She's my mother, so I'm biased. But at the same time, she's just like, hey, Donald Trump, you're a successful businessman. Could you give me $10,000? Obviously, she doesn't know how Twitter works, and it's not a bank or whatever. But I feel like
she's a human being.
It explains a lot of people's mindset.
That's exactly what I was trying to get at. Yeah, it's just like, this is a successful businessman. If you could just give me a tiny portion of your grand wealth that you don't actually fucking have, but that you pretend to have.
I worked at this bar when Trump was running for office. My boss owned bars in New Orleans, and she bought this bar called Martine's Lounge. Shout out to Martine's.
Martine's!
I love Martine's.
That's where we did
in Metairie.
50 Shades of Gross.
Yeah, 50 Shades of Gross. But in old Metairie, the history of this bar was that the people who owned it, there was a lot of people that owned it before she did, but the people who owned it before her, David Duke, who was the Grand Wizard of the KKK. He ran for governor of Louisiana. He actually ran for a state senator position that he won, and then he went to run to become governor of Louisiana against oh God, and I'm gonna come up with the name, but I can't think of it right now. But he ran for that, and his district was Old Metairie. Old Metairie has a lot of good people, but it is one of probably, when you look at areas in the South that are...
Does it have a plantation vibe?
It's not a plantation vibe, but it is known to be kind of one of, in the United States of America, one of the most racist communities, small town communities. So Old Metairie flourished because they didn't want black people to live in that community, you know. And then they elected David Duke as their state legislative representative within the Louisiana
His name just makes me feel gross.
Right, it makes
so then he ran for governor. He lost against one of the most, you know, charismatic, colorful governors who ever lived in Louisiana. He ran against him and lost. But the bar that I worked at, when Suzanne took over it, you know, people said, "Oh, you're gonna go over there and work for Suzanne at Martine's," you know. That's the old KKK bar. That's a David Duke bar. And I said, "What do you mean that's a David Duke bar? Why is that David Duke?" She said, "Well, David Duke, they had the previous owners had a fundraiser for him back in the day when he was running for governor." So there are so many pockets of, you know, when they were taking down the Confederate statues, which was it took them quite a few years to do that in Louisiana, in New Orleans, when they were taking down, you know, these old Confederate statues in New Orleans, because what they represented was
Was this the 1991 election against Edwin Edwards?
Edwin Edwards. Edwin Edwards. If you don't know who Edwin Edwards is,
I don't.
Okay,
just
so
Googled
if you don't know who I couldn't think of his name was. Edwin Edwards is a Cajun guy. He ran. I think he won 2 or 3 terms as governor. He was so beloved in the state of Louisiana as a governor, and he was a Cajun boy. But he
loved me some Cajun.
Loved him. So, but he was so corrupt, like so many politicians. But he would say things like, "Listen, I'm going," like he would put himself as like a Robin Hood. I'm gonna take from the rich and give to the poor. I'm gonna get you your piece, but while I'm getting you your piece, I'm gonna take a piece from me. He was completely honest. He was a Democrat. He was completely honest. He's still alive too, by the way. And there are people in Louisiana who wish he was still governor. He would rob from the rich to give to the poor, but then he would take a little cut for himself. You know, it's like, oh yeah. So when he was running again, I mean, you can look this up. This guy he's still alive. He's so colorful. He's in his like 90s now. He's so colorful. When he was running against David Duke for governor, which he won, they would have debates on TV. This is like in the 80s. And he would say online, he's like, "Listen, run against this guy. The only way I'm going to lose this election is if I'm caught in bed with a live hooker and a dead boy." I mean, this motherfucker was so insane. He would be like, listen. He'd be like, listen. Oh yeah. He's like, this guy wears bed sheets to go protest, and I wear bed sheets when I'm fucking women. And I mean, he was married like 4 times. Yes. Insane. This guy was insane. And he was honest about how he was going to take some for himself. And he was a governor, I think, he was 12 years, 2 4-year terms. Wasn't a term, and then came back for another 4 years. It was like 12 years he was a governor. The entire time he was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna take money for myself," and he did it. And then they finally put him. Then they put him.
People hate politicians because they're fucking liars. And then he was being honest.
And then he went to jail. And when he got out, he ran for governor again. And a lot of people.
Wait, why did he go to jail?
He did go to jail for like 8 years. Oh, because of corruption. He was stealing money. Because like every Louisiana politician, he was like, you know,
Louisiana's deep in
you know, this is my cousin Boudreaux, and I'm gonna give him I'm gonna give him a city contract for whatever. But it's the same thing that, you know, Ray Nagin, if you remember Katrina at all, Ray Nagin was like on the on the radio said, we're dying out here in Louisiana. We're dying out here. This is a chocolate city. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He would say, this is a chocolate city. We're dying out here. They left us here to die. 1 week later, they caught him on tape. He was in Texas trying to wipe out all low-income housing in Louisiana, in New Orleans. The guy was so corrupt.
Right.
So corrupt. But so...
that kind of brings us back to the corruption of our own politicians of Ted Cruz.
Oh my God.
So David Duke ran against Edwin Everett. Totally lost, by the way. Totally lost. But this little slice of Louisiana, Old Metairie, loved him. That's the
so
thing.
Scary.
That's the thing. It's like, you grew up in Utah. I grew up in Washington. We certainly know racist people. We certainly know judgmental people.
Of course.
I know when I worked in Old Metairie at this bar and we took it over, it was all of those people. And I remember when they were trying to take those statues down and that kid went up to that church. What was his name? He shot up the black church. He killed all those people.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then the governor of North Carolina they had basically the Confederate flag was flying on top of the state, and she took it down. The people in Metairie, a lot of those who went to that bar, they weren't upset about all those people dying in that church. They were upset that the Confederate flag was made. We have a right to fly. Mm-hmm. They would come in like, Andrew, we have a right to fly. I was like, if you want to fly a Confederate flag in your front yard, you should do it. And I remember this lady, I told her, I'm not going to name her name. She's not going to listen to this.
We can't say last names anyway.
I don't even want to say her first name. I don't want to say her first name, but she was so upset. I was like, listen, if I'm so-and-so, I said, if you want to fly a Confederate flag in your front yard, you should do it. She's like, but you're like, I was like, no, I think you should do it because then everybody will know.
Everyone can see who you are.
Yeah, right. Do it. You're so upset about flying the Confederate flag. Then everybody going to know. When they did that insurgents, and Donald Trump didn't call the National Guard, he basically encouraged them. There were people
he told them you're
flying
a patriot.
Confederate flags.
And they love them and they're special people.
A war that is over. A war against the country of the United States. They're flying them. They were coming into the state capitol with Confederate flags.
Right.
Unbelievable.
Listen, we're getting on to our 30-minute mark here, so we need to take a break. But I just want to say a couple of things. The first one being, I grew up in Utah. I grew up in the 80s, right? That's when I went to school, and I learned a hell of a lot about Robert E. Lee. I am 45 years old, and I am just learning about Black Wall Street.
Yeah.
From watching...
Oh, is that what that whole,
watching Watchmen, from watching,
Lovecraft Country.
Country.
I had no idea what that was.
I'm like, this is a thing I should probably learn about.
What is...
Because I know it's something important, but I don't know what it is because I'm a white kid from Utah.
What is it? There's not a lot of public schools left in this country because most places are going by charter. But the three of us definitely went to public schools in this country. Mm-hmm. And I remember my sister and I had a conversation less than a year ago. And my sister goes, think about our education. We had a public school education, which really should be the gold standard of education in the United States of America. My sister goes, what do you remember about the Reconstruction of this country? I don't remember anything. She goes, no, it went from Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, Civil War ended, we went to Martin Luther King, the Civil Rights Act, everything is great, now we're all great. We didn't even talk about the Reconstruction. We didn't even talk about the fall of the Reconstruction.
We literally just started rewatching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Willow was trying to teach Xander about she actually covered that part. It's like, it's known as the Reconstruction after the Civil War. And I'm like, what the fuck is this bitch talking about? I didn't learn about this in school at all.
The Reconstruction.
But I'm like, I love that they covered it in Buffy.
Thank you, Joss Whedon, by the way.
Right.
Shout out to you.
We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
And there's 2 points to that. Number one, none of us were taught about the Reconstruction. And I didn't go to college, and neither did you. My sister went to college. That's where she learned it. And I learned it just from being an adult who... I think, quite frankly, all the 3 of us could say this, is that we left our little hometowns. And then, oh, we're a fucking idiot. We don't know shit.
Yeah,
And
there's
also,
a whole world out there.
Why is Xander so fucking dumb in this show?
Dude,
So dumb.
he is so fucking dumb.
Also, hey, you guys, we need to take a break. But I also want to say I didn't learn
I don't
about...
want to lose this thought because I have thoughts on Xander.
I didn't learn about Juneteenth until last year. I am 45 years old.
I didn't know about that until last year either.
So that's
Right.
fucked up. So we're going to take a break. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. And we're back. What were we talking
so back to Xander.
And Juneteenth.
And Juneteenth.
No, I didn't know
Probably
anything
more
about Juneteenth.
important.
I knew about Rosewood, but I did not know about Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I didn't either. And
Okay.
I literally just watched Watchmen. I'm late to the game on that. I watched Watchmen, and we watched Lovecraft Country,
Right.
which both have the Dreamland Theater and the whole thing.
I
And was like,
haven't,
this
I
is
haven't watched
something
either
I
of
should
those.
learn.
I haven't actually. I didn't know about Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Black Wall Street.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about that
I knew a little bit about Rosewood, but my understanding of Rosewood wasn't. And the common denominator between Rosewood and Tulsa, Oklahoma, and Black Wall Street is it was a white woman.
What's Rosewood?
Rosewood was Florida. Basically the same thing. Right before what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I don't know what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
So it's black. So Rosewood, Florida, Tulsa, Oklahoma, which they call Black Wall Street.
Right.
Both of them were basically
Affluent.
African American communities in the United States, and I think maybe Rosewood happened first, or they happened around the same time. They were talking about the 20s. It was like it was 100% a black community.
Right.
They had their own businesses. They were thriving on their own, but there was no way that the white racist
assholes.
white racists and
how dare you,
How dare you do well?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. You
Right.
need us.
yeah,
or some
communities
bullshit.
were going to allow that. They do not want people of color to succeed, and they still don't. But they weren't going to allow it. And in both instances, I think it was. I know in Rosewood, it was a white woman was having an affair on her husband and blamed a black young kid of raping her.
Of course.
And then that was and I think in Tulsa, Oklahoma, it was the same thing. It was just like, and I can't think of his name.
What a cunt.
Was
But
the
up and
Tulsa,
down.
Oklahoma thing about Emmett?
It wasn't about Emmett Till. Emmett Till was another. Emmett Till went from Chicago, Illinois. His mother sent, but all I think almost, and I'm not a historian, so I might get this wrong, but from what I understand, all three instances were because a white woman accused a young black kid of
Inappropriate conduct or whatever.
But it was just an excuse, and none of that happened. Emmett Till thing, I think that we all know about that a little bit more outside of Rosewood and Tulsa, Oklahoma, is because Emmett Till's mother, when they sent the body back to him, he was so bloody and beaten, but she released the photo to the Chicago Tribune to be published so that people could see what they were doing.
Right. Just a quick reminder to our listeners, it's 3 a.m. We're drunk in Vegas, so we haven't researched this. We are just talking here.
Right.
Like, we're not...
We're rapping.
If we give any sort of, like, misinformation, it's not in any sort of malicious way. This is, like, kind of... the intent is, like, hey, we're three white girls from white small towns, and
Right.
we're just sharing with you our experience of what we learned and what we know.
Right.
And basically what we've learned from...
And again, I didn't
from-
know half of this shit, so...
From movies and TV and shit. Like, it's really embarrassing that I've never heard of...
And from social media.
I would
and
like to point
from,
out, too, like, I was telling Mandi this earlier today, was that I'm just now getting to know Twitter, and it is my new fucking favorite. I was like, I get to tell people they need to resign to their face in a way on Twitter. I'm like, how have I been wasting my time on Facebook?
She's been adding Ted Cruz, like, every 5 minutes.
Well,
I just
think,
resign Ted Cruz. You're a fucking disgrace.
But I understand why you would want to do that, because it's like, how do you...
Well, I'm always complaining to my Facebook friends who don't do anything when I could actually tell the person that I think should resign because they're a disgrace to this country.
Well, and this is just a personal opinion, but I think that white women are the
worst.
In general, we are the worst.
We are
now.
kind of
right
the
now.
worst. Right.
You know, that more white women voted for Donald Trump in this election than they did in 2016 is so disgusting. It is so embarrassing.
Agreed.
I don't know how to change it. I don't know how to change. Trump women who, I don't have a lot of friends who do that. I don't have any like hardcore female Trump supporters. I wouldn't even know how to change their opinion.
Well, we're trying to talk about it. I think that's part of the point of the whole thing.
Well, I was going to say about the whole Twitter thing was that there's been a few things that have been brought to my attention. Because another thing that I like about Twitter is, like, you get the news faster than the news. Like, I'm like, oh, and sometimes it's wrong. You cannot take it for face value. Do some research. But there was a few things. One was a dude was getting taken off of an airplane. So it was one of those fucking douchebags that stormed the Capitol, and the FBI put him on a no-fly list. They happened to get on the plane, but then they got taken off of the plane. And so I heard him talking to another thing because somebody was filming it, right? Just saying, yeah, they're arresting us right now. They're saying, you know, like, for treason. And I can only tell it because they were same outfit wearing, but now somebody's filming from the airport and he's making a ruckus and he's just like, it's bullshit. I'm trying to protect you people and I love my country and they're calling me a terrorist. And he, you know, his voice breaks. He's gonna cry and I'm an empathetic person. I think he's a fucking horrible person for trying to overthrow our democracy, but I still have empathy for this person.
Because he literally has no idea.
He has no idea. He's been brainwashed into thinking he's a patriot. I love you. You're very special people. He did what he thought was right, which was protecting the country, right, from his perspective. And now he's being called a terrorist. Because he is a domestic terrorist. But that knowledge, or just being like, oh my...
Coming from the highest office,
right. When
validating...
the FBI is arresting you for being a terrorist, you have to go, oh my God, am I a fucking terrorist? And so when his voice breaks and he's about, like, again, I'm an empathetic person. I think what he did was wrong, but it's like, fuck, that's horrible.
Yeah.
I had many other points, but now I'm up in the moment. I'm drunk, so...
Well, that's kind of the fucking whole thing, is that,
right.
like, there's a... You know, like we were saying at the very beginning of this conversation, it's like the let's call them Trump worshipers, because Trump worshipers and Republicans are two different species of people.
Right.
And the Trump worshipers are only like maybe 10% of the party. But they're the loudest, most violent, and most dangerous.
Ted Cruz needs to resign.
Oh my God, absolutely.
I know, I'm just throwing my little hashtag.
And I'm going to put a little different spin on this, but one of the things that this, coming from watching what happened at the Capitol and watching what happened in our country, that woman was shot by Capitol Police,
right.
Rightfully.
Right.
And CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, you know, are treating her as a victim of being played by the president. I don't have any fucking sympathy for her. I have to be honest with you. I don't have any sympathy for that guy either. I have zero sympathy because those same people cannot even in their mind understand that Trayvon Martin was a 13-year-old kid walking through his neighborhood. I'm sorry. I don't have...
That's very fair.
She is an enemy of the country that I want, our society, that how I want to see it. She is an enemy.
But whose fucking fault is that? Like, can we? It's
her fault. It is. Yeah. Is it Trump?
You have to have some.
But what I find very dangerous in CNN, NBC, and more of the more liberal Democratic slant. It's like she's a victim too. No, she's not a victim. She is an adult.
She made a choice.
She is an adult who thought that she was right doing this, and that the 17-year-old kid that shot all those people in Kenosha, Illinois, that the guy who kneeled on the cop who kneeled on the neck of George Floyd, they were right in all that. Right. She doesn't get a fucking pass.
You're
to
right.
me, I'm sorry, you don't get a pass.
You know what? That's fucking
You don't
fair.
get a pass.
Right. And when you put things in perspective,
you don't get a pass. I'm not.
Makes sense.
You don't. Saying that she is a victim of Trump's lies is making her more human to all the people that support her, and still making George Floyd a fucking victim.
I totally agree.
Or not
with
a
you.
victim, a perpetrator.
I totally agree with you, Andrea, and I think that the sticky part of this, and it's the sticky part for like all of us who are rational thinking human beings, is that like there are people that we love in our families that are related to us, or at the very least that we know in our communities who are these people, and I feel like we have to somehow make it easier on them. Like we have to say they're a victim because
White fragility.
Because otherwise it's too horrible to comprehend.
I understand that, but the opposite side of that is that if you are Colin Kaepernick, who took a fucking knee in the most peaceful way, the same people who that woman who was shot trying to kill Nancy Pelosi, Mike Pence. I don't like Mike Pence. Do I want him dead? Do I want Donald Trump dead? I don't want Donald Trump dead. I don't want any of them dead.
Sit in prison forever.
It's not what it's about.
But that wanted to kill them. Those same people thought that Colin Kaepernick was the worst traitor on this country.
Right.
And the man took a knee in the most peaceful...
Run. Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You don't... None of them
yeah.
I've been
get
watching
a pass.
people...
None of them get a pass.
Blacking out the blue in their Blue Lives Matter, like, flags. They have
just
flags.
to say, like, we liked cops and now we don't.
You betrayed us is what they're saying.
And, you know, your mom, like my dad, and... a little bit of varying degree of, I think, strongness, but they both support Trump. Mm-hmm. Your mom nor my dad tried to kill anybody. No. They didn't try to storm and I don't think either one of them would have done that. Maybe they would have. Maybe they wouldn't have.
Hopefully not.
But you know what they didn't do?
I'm not gonna lie. I think if my mom had the money,
but she's right.
She would have.
They didn't do it. They didn't do it.
They didn't do it.
Right. Yeah, and do I have would I sit in a conversation with your mom or my dad or anybody else who didn't do that? But the woman who was shot and killed, I'm not.
Bought a plane ticket.
I'm not.
Made the decision.
I'm not upset about her. I'm sorry.
I'm not really upset.
I'm not upset about her.
I'm not upset. And when I say I'm upset for that guy, and I honestly think it was just I don't like seeing people cry, and the fact that his voice broke and he was so upset, I was just like, I naturally want to put myself in somebody else's shoes to try and understand what they're going through.
And if that moment of realization is a pathway to you understanding the difference, but you are an adult,
right?
And all those people that went there are an adult.
But they are brainwashed, though. I mean, to a degree.
It's a choice. It's a choice.
It is a choice.
It's a choice.
You have Lindsey Graham. You have Ted Cruz. You have Trump.
But first of all, let's take Ted Cruz and put him right front and center in all this.
Garbage.
Ted Cruz. And when you look at the Senate and you look at Congress, right? Congress has 300 something fucking people or something. A lot of those people, some of those people that got elected, working class and then got elected into the office. The Senate, that's 100 people in the Senate. Ted Cruz, he is Harvard educated. Right. From what I understand, he is a brilliant person. What he's doing, he is not brainwashed. He's not anything. No. This guy is
calculated.
Ivy League. Donald Trump in 2015 said his wife was basically a dog and a monster.
And his dad helped.
And he turned around. Ted Cruz is self-serving, wants to become president of the United States.
He'll never be president.
This man is not, some of the people in Congress are, for lack of a better term, definitely uneducated, a lot of them, because there's a lot of seats in the Congress, and it's not that hard to get. It's not easy,
but it's not.
But
that
in
hard.
a small community, it's not hard. You know, we have a congressperson from Bellingham, Washington. Bellingham is not that big of a town, and you don't have to be nobody from Bellingham is Harvard fucking educated.
Right.
Bellingham. Where are you from in Utah? There's probably not a lot of Harvard educated, Yale educated people there, but they get elected to the Senate is so different. And Ted Cruz is not just underclass, like not just getting his bachelor's degree at a Ivy League. He got his fucking doctorate at Ivy League. He went to law school.
So he's not a dummy.
The guy knows what he's doing. And what he's doing
makes it worse.
He is putting all of his money into Trump because he wants to become president one day. And then he should be tried for treason just like the rest of them.
Absolutely.
Listen, we had this whole thing planned about how we were going to talk about drunken stories in Vegas.
I mean, I can talk about those.
It's 45 minutes of us talking about politics and how Ted Cruz should be fucking tried for treason. And we stand by those. We're going to put this out as this
is a political
bonus episode.
Political
podcast. We'll give you guys some more, some more of the dirty deets that you're used to hearing from us about us getting drunk and doing stupid shit in Vegas.
I fell down and skinned my knee because I've been wasted all day.
For instance, I went to Vegas one time with the Anderson crew and have naughty tattooed on the back of my neck.
Let's just end this one by saying there's a podcast that we really love called The Daily.
Absolutely.
Listen
100%.
to The Daily. It's a great podcast. It'll give you a lot of really factual, unbiased, nonpartisan information. The second thing I want to say is it is fucking 3 o'clock in the morning. We're in Vegas and we're still drunk.
Not high on cocaine at all.
Not high on cocaine.
We didn't do any drugs.
And there's no strippers in this room. So, that being said...
Dexter.
Thanks for listening to our podcast. Check us out on YouTube, all the usual blah, blah, blahs, and we'll see you next time.
Bye. Bye.